So here's the thing, I had the pleasure to read one of the best reviews ever written that I have ever glanced my eyes upon, and that's the review for Season 2 Part 2 Shibuya arc. The dude doesn't know that what is Shibuya arc, apparently. By a dude named Rafael Motomeyer, I would presume, or Motomeyer probably, that was posted like a few days ago, and on IGN, a very prestigious media to enjoy your anime reviews from. Like, no, anime tubers, they just suck, all of them. Just watch and read 5 paragraphs summarizing a whole thing for you. So here it is. A dude we have that I did have the pleasure of finding his tweet that says, I am on the right side of history, the season was just okay. An amazing guy, and it does seem he is getting ratioed pretty heavily and he is hiding some replies too. So off the record, I have actually done over at my Farsi channel, I did episode per episode review. I tried to do it here, but I didn't have time and I just couldn't do it. Like, not enough time, and it's a pretty heavy thing. So here's the thing. The dude believes that the season was okay, and the reasons for the season being okay are just a blasphemy to anything called a review. The dude writes that the much anticipated adaptation of the blah 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 blah, wait, but here it is. Though the fights are handsomely animated and there are some moments of visual brilliance, the arc ends up being a nonsensical fight after nonsensical fight without much emotion in the storytelling. And this is the first paragraph, so let's just talk about that. Okay, nonsensical fight. So the fight between Choso and Yuji, it was nonsensical, even though it made us realize something that was foreshadowed at chapter 60 of Jujutsu Kaisen, and it was foreshadowed in season 1. It was a cheap fight without any it was a nonsensical fight that just happened because of fights. The fight between Jogo and Sukuna, that gives us a glimpse into Sukuna's character that actually is on the opposite side of Gojo, that actually enjoys humiliating his not enjoys, but it seems like he looks down on people. Sukuna does that too, but is actually decent enough to recognize strengths, as he did, like stand proud, you were strong and stuff. The panel we had, and also the fight between Mahoraga and Sukuna, that brought a whole devastation to the whole story and made the giant hole. And we actually see Yuta talking about that Inumaki senpai lost his hand or his hands. I don't read the manga, I am not sure. It did seem to be his hand, one of them. And what it did to Yuji, and the repercussions it has for Yuji, who actually let Sukuna come out, he was beaten and didn't let Sukuna come out, and the whole repercussions that it has, and we can see that Sukuna is now haunted by the Jujutsu Sorcerer community. This was a nonsensical fight, the Mahoraga Sukuna. Also a fight that shows us that for some reason that I do believe is that Sukuna wants to have Megumi as a vessel probably later on because of his techniques, as that was also foreshadowed in season 1. I reviewed all of this shit in my Farsi channel. Decides to go one-on-one on Mahoraga in order to save a human of this era, and that also gives us a foreshadowing for some things that are probably Sukuna trying to make Megumi his own vessel or something, moving from bodies or something like that. That was nonsensical. The fight between Mahito and Yuji, the clash of ideologies they had, that was nonsensical. You do believe, really, that these were nonsensical fights? Leave that aside. I was forgetting one of the most strongest parts of the fights, and that is the fight that had more, more to it than many of the other fights. And that's Nanami versus Mahito. Look, the Nanami versus Mahito is a parallel to, it just goes to show us how being selfless and working for people and just sacrificing yourself doesn't mean shit. You get nothing of what you wanted in the world, and that's a worldview that Gege is showing us. How do we know that? Just look at the other side. We have Mei Mei that escaped and has like an incestual shit with Oi Oi and goes to Malaysia of all the places. You didn't pay attention to that, Raphael. It doesn't seem like you watched the same thing. It's a parallel between two schools of ideology, between two forms to look at the two world views to look at the humankind and try to act on it. One of them is the, hey, look at me. I do try to be selfless to help people, and it might not help me back in return, and I might not get the peace I deserve. The other one is, I will be pretty selfish as I can be, and I just disappear when everyone is getting wrecked left and right, because I do believe I could die. That's Mei. And if you did notice, he wanted to go, Nanami wanted to go to Malaysia. He didn't get to go to Malaysia, even after doing so much and losing so much and suffering so much, and he had a very, very terrible death and a very painful death for himself too. He doesn't get what he wanted. Mei, a selfish person, and incestual, manipulative, a slave to money person, did get what she wanted by not being selfless and being selfish. That was in the fights that you didn't bother to care about, or you were just too dumb to understand and comprehend. Then you go on and say something that is pretty jarring to me. Someone that does reviews to actually be able to write this as a review. There is a cheapness to many of the deaths. You are entitled to being dumb and have dumb opinions without any basis and evidences, and not understanding the story, until you are not trying to force feed that to people through a media, a big media, corporate media. And when you get to that point, people will call you out, and you being an absolute entitled person and dumb person that didn't understand the story, the meme, to actually go on Twitter and say, I am on the right side of history, the season was just okay. I mean, you even got ratioed. Okay, collective something, like people's the collective judgment or collective logic. It's English is my third language, sorry, is not actually the always right, and many of the times just wrong, but it doesn't do much for you. And you say there is a cheapness to many of this. What did you expect? First of all, cheapness to this. Look, if the mangaka is so confident to kill off many of the, or severely injure and put out of commission on many of the main cast, let's say, and the story doesn't fall down and suffer from it, that's a pretty good damn manga story, whatever. And here's the thing about cheapness. Death is not a beautiful heroic thing. People die because of dumb reasons. Daily, every single day, people die because of very, very dumb reasons, and of random reasons, like your heart decides to stop. Some random dude decides to not drive like a normal humankind and just run you over. You could have like a technical person does a huge mistake in how they wire your shit and you get electrocuted or anything, or you just plain die because of old age, and that could be considered cheap in your opinion. When you are having people sorcery fight, let's say, people are fighting and there is a cause for fighting, it's bound to be, when there is a power balance, there is a unbalance, let's say, there is bound to be cheapness to this. And if you did pay close attention to Gege's story, that you never did, you do realize that Gege has a worldview that pretty much emphasizes on the fact that, hey, death is something that can happen randomly out of nowhere and without any OST playing in the background making an epic. This is not Naruto. The whole cast and the whole Force Shinobi War is not going to just freeze in place and mourn the death of some dude. It's not going to happen. Yuji didn't have the time to mourn Nanami. He was screaming, and at the same time, he was fucking screaming at Mahito. And Mahito was like, shut the fuck up, I can hear you, man. And started attacking him right after. Mahito he wasn't even letting him mourn after Todo appears and Nobara was dead. He didn't let him mourn, and he was going to attack him, and it's a realistic worldview. And the fact that you consider realistic cheapness does speak volumes to your worldview and how you are probably the meme itself, the living in my parents' basement or something. You are the meme itself. It does. This is what you are conveying by your text. I'm not judging you by anything else. I'm just reading your text. And many of the other disses we had, like the Nobara fight, that shows, hey, you make a mistake, you die. And it goes again toe in toe with the fact that, hey, being selfless doesn't guarantee you having a happy end. That's a pretty grim view, but that has been the case, and that has been the theme throughout Jujutsu Kaisen from the very beginning. And you know that. This is not a happy story. The humor you talk about, we had it here too in this season too. But it just transitions into Nobara being dead, one of them. Why? Because this is the worldview of the mangaka that you failed to comprehend because you were probably too dumb. And even though the story arrives at some big changes, it does so after a meandering story. What did you expect? First of all, the fights you are talking about, you failed to comprehend they were actually the highlight, and they were conveying us many of the things we saw here, as I mentioned before. You failing to understand them doesn't make you right and doesn't put you on the right side of the fucking history. And you say the first season had a great mix of comedy and action with horror influences that gave it a unique aspect. Yeah, it actually didn't. It was the most typical shonen you could have. But probably, again, you failed to watch many of the works that you probably should have watched beforehand to realize that. Like, you are just uneducated. And that's like the case with the vast majority of the people that write in this media. The first half, the Hidden Inventory arc, came with devastating character drama that deepened the world and lore and made what was a relatively small villain into a fascinating and complex character. That actually, the roots of what happened in Shibuya are in Hidden Inventory arc, exactly, and you fail to comprehend that too. And you say that Shibuya arc seems to misunderstand, it wasn't the action alone. So you are telling me you never understood the very subtle references we had about I call him Ağa Magzi, the brain man dude. I call him that. Noritoshi Kamo, someone that actually went through a whole lot of shit and a plan that was foreshadowed many times in the same season, but you fail to understand. Like the dialogues they had with Mahito when they were still in Gojo, and when they had that masterful exposition of Noritoshi Kamo that we had hints from before, like chapter 60 or something, the whole Choso situation and him being brothers with Itadori. It was all there, but for some reason you decided to not comprehend that, and you do realize that one of the problems you talk about, that is the problem being with the awkward chronology of the arcs. It's been 4 years since we last saw Yuji and friends, and the moment we are reunited with them, they are separated into dozens of teams sent to respond to a full-scale attack by cursed spirits in the Shibuya ward of Tokyo. So, based on what you said and based on exactly the same logic you are using here, Hunter x Hunter is a complete disaster, the manga right now, because Gon is separated from his friends, the main cast, and they are in different parts of the world doing different stuff. So people have to hang out together all the time. So it's a beautiful thing. And again, another lapse of judgment and understanding the real world, aspect of what we are seeing here. Imagine you are a policeman. You have 4 other policeman friends. There is a series of there's a series of robberies across the town, and they send you on different patrols. So now this is kind of stupid, because why aren't you hanging out with your police friends when there is an emergency going on, huh? I want you to understand how dumb you sounded. Media people are just the most entitled human beings ever walk the face of earth, and there is not going to be anything coming out of this. I have seen worse things at this. I do remember still that the fuckery with Nier Automata's review. I don't know, it wasn't IGN, I think it was Kotaku or some other place. That, for your information, Nier Automata came out on 2017, and at the same time, pretty close to almost the same time, at Zelda Breath of the Wild and Persona 5 7. Jesus, I just approved and made 2 parts of them, 2 no parts of them, parts of them, sorry. So there was a situation that this person, I don't remember if it was a man, I don't remember who he was or who she was or whatever they want to call themselves, they was. I'm not getting into pronouns, I don't remember even the face of the person, but I do remember what happened. This person had the great idea to rate Nier Automata a 6, I think, because he did believe that the anime was incomplete, the game. If you do know about Nier Automata, the part about Zelda is going to get important, but later on, just give me a little bit of time. The part about the Nier Automata is that you play the game once, and it's through one of the characters, let's say point of view, POV. You play the second time, another character's POV. The third time, the fucking opening appears, and this is the part that the anime, I say again, the game actually started. Like, it wasn't anything until that point. It was just showcasing the world building, and there is a reason for that. So he played just 1/3 of the story, or 1/5 in my opinion, and decided, hey, this was a bad story. He never, this human never actually made an apology for that. Never did. Never will. Stood by the dumb decisions this person took, or she took, and you're doing the same thing by saying, I am on the right side of the history. And there was a reason he did that. He was like, hey, there was a tweet, I do remember that, hey, I can't wait to play Zelda Breath of the Wild and be done with this game, something like that. Like, they wanted to have the game Nier Automata finished as soon as possible so they could move on to Zelda. That was the reason they fucked up. And I do think the Metacritic score of Nier Automata could have been in the 90s if that pretty dumb review didn't ever appear. So let's continue with, so that's why I say that these people do not try to correct their mistakes. Like for example, 2026 passes and there is no AOE. I will say, hey bro, it was all artistic choice and shit like that. But these people do not comprehend how to actually be a normal human. And here there is something that he says that is just blowing my mind. He says that the fights look magnificent, but talks about the crunch and unfair compensation against Mappa Studio, that I did talk about that in another video. And he quotes this animation director that you do probably remember, that they could get 30% of the intended vision done, and he says that in a way that is conveying that said episode was a disaster or some sort. That episode he is actually referencing, that's episode 17. An episode I spent 27 fucking minutes just analyzing the visual aspects and the imagery and sound direction and everything. That was the episode that this person is pointing this out as something to counterbalance that, hey, it was good, but this was the problem. That 30% comment, in my opinion, it was like, hey, it could have been much better. I can't believe how it could have been much better, to be honest. The episode 17 of season 2, that was Mahoraga versus Sukuna. That was the best episode of the year for me, and I never imagined Jujutsu Kaisen would be the one to do that when we had Attack on Titan final part of the final season. And he says that yeah, some cuts in several of the arcs episodes do indeed look unfinished. Here I thought he was going to talk about the fight that Nanami and Ko had with the crab thingy. I don't remember his name. In his domain expansion place thingy, in the beach. And he says like Todo and Yuji's fight against Mahito. Todo and Yuji's fight had unfinished cuts? Didn't even say Mahito versus Yuji. That fight was lit, that fight was cool. I'm not understanding where is this even coming from, just random bullshittery flying around. The highlight of the season, of the fight and the animation thing for him is Jogo versus Sukuna. A Shibuya incident highlight. Shibuya. And says it was beautiful and giving the impression of a clash between titans that goes beyond our comprehension of physics. Are you sure that... I mean, that was amazing, but did you even watch the episode of Mahoraga versus Sukuna? You didn't, dude, and it's just too obvious. You're just trying too hard to sugarcoat it and not show us that the fact that you didn't even watch the anime. It can be a case of preference, but if you are going to give an example of something that showcases a clash between titans, why are you using that example when you had Sukuna versus Mahoraga? The Jogo versus Sukuna, it was a clash of titans, but it was a one-sided clash of titans. The Mahoraga Sukuna wasn't like that. Of course Sukuna was dominating, but not as much as he was in the other one. I mean, okay then bro, I'm getting the vibe that you didn't even read the thing. And he says like Jujutsu Kaisen is just people punching each other. Are you just fucking stupid, man? This is now insulting to yourself. Come on, man, delete this shit. And again, several characters die or get put out of commission by their injuries, possibly for the rest of the series. Like the only time that a sacrifice, a selflessness was actually kind of rewarded, that was Todo helping his bro Yuji against Mahito. While a couple of these casualties are emotionally crushing and brought upon by character choices, some are used for shock value at best and mere plot points at worst. So nobody dying at that point. Some people just pointed out to me that she could be alive. No spoilers from the manga, because I do not like the spoilers from the manga either. I have not been spoiled yet, but I do believe she's pretty much dead. But anyway, so which of the deaths was for shock value? Talking about shock value, let's talk about Berserk. Not the deaths, but many of the things many of the sexual stuff that happens is just for shock value. I do not see people calling that out enough. But we have a story about the helplessness of Yuji and Ko in front of the curses when Gojo is not present, and someone's plan to actually... The whole thing was centered about, if this dude forgot, about sealing Gojo so they can do whatever they want, and we realized it was like the Noritoshi Kamo had a plan to just fuck everyone up, including the curses. As Jogo pointed out at some point that you wanted us to be your meat shield and stuff, like way back. That was cheap storytelling and cheap death, like random, like Nobara died because she underestimated, and because actually she didn't pay attention when they asked them, hey, do not go into the fight. If you do remember, Nanami told them like they shouldn't be there. That's what Nanami told her, and the other lady too. And she decided to go to be selfless, and she got what she not deserved. That's bad, but she got what she had coming for her for being selfless, as what happened with Nanami. Failing to comprehend the deaths of characters is a major problem that you seem to have. Like, you do want a Naruto-ish way of dying for everyone in this story, and that's just typical shonen. You wanted a typical shonen shit here, and you can't realize that the giant hole in Shibuya, it was a whole huge plot point. This is just, the whole thing is just stupid. The rest I do not even want to read that. It's the same shit just being repeated. Like, even the the five paragraphs you wrote, most of them is the same shit. Like, it's not a review, it's not even a opinion piece, it's not even a piece. It's just you talking to a friend, telling them why I don't like this anime. It's just a Twitter rant I'm seeing here. It's nothing else than that. And it starts to get very, very interesting when I see that you gave ranking of kings, treasure chest of courage. You gave it an 8. That shit was a disaster. Come on. The first season was cool, was okay, it was an 8. But no one, I think, actually enjoyed that though. And you say it expands on the lore of the world. So Jujutsu Kaisen, when it expands and it doesn't have a mute person that for some reason, I'm not gonna get into I'm gonna review that later on, but it has a milking season of a most protect character that it was the most cliche, the season 1. It was the most cliche shit ever. I'm gonna be just completely honest with you, in my opinion. That just had good animation, okay storytelling, and good character development at some point. Just normal character, typical character you want to protect. It was just, what was it? And it was okay. It was an 8 the first season. I'm shitting on it, but it was an 8 or 7.5 or something. But the continuation or the spin-off thingy, whatever you call it, it was bad. It was just milking it. And then I get to the fact that you gave Bocchi the Rock season 1 a 9. Look, it's pretty jarring to me that someone calling himself a reviewer, that very, very obviously you have not ever seen or watched because look, first of all, Bocchi the Rock tries to show us how social anxiety and stuff like that, look, it fails on massive levels. It's just a colossal fail in that aspect. It's a cool, cute girls do cute things, and that's all that it is. On a musical side, it's not that great if you compare it to K-On, for example. But if it was, many people are praising it on the social anxiety thing. The comedy is okay. It gets a 7 from me at max. And this is like the Popuri Kome, if I did mention that right. That's an amazing thing to watch if you want to watch a good comedy. But many people were praising Bocchi for Bocchi the Cock, in my opinion, for the most dumbest thing that was it's very good. It showcases social anxiety very good. First of all, okay, look, the whole fucking family knows she has problems, and social anxiety doesn't look like that. Do watch or read NHK ni Yokoso to understand what, if you want to see an anime take on stuff like that, on being what was it, hikikomori and social anxiety. Do watch that to comprehend that. This is just a cute way of sugarcoating social anxiety. It was just dumb. It was just, yeah, oh, so cute, she has social anxiety. It doesn't look like that. That's just a caricaturistic and pretty stupid and very, I'm not gonna say the word, I'm gonna get my ass banned from everywhere. But we had the same situation with Wandering Priority. I do have a review with subtitles, I think I voice over that, I don't remember. That comes from my Farsi channel, is here in the English channel. Wandering Priority was like, yeah, look, this is bad, like child abuse is bad, child molestation is bad, look at how bad it is, and didn't do anything about it. Like, it was just touching the subject on the surface, and that's it, and that's what Bocchi did, and it's the same thing. You gave this shit a 9, and you gave Jujutsu Kaisen a 6, and for some reason you failed to comprehend many of the things that almost everyone understood in Jujutsu Kaisen. And then, the most jarring of them all, the ending of Attack on Titan gets a 10. It's a masterpiece. Bro, did you watch Sea Tactics and just decide that this is a masterpiece? Shocking reveals, pure horror, emotionally charged goodbyes. Shocking reveals, like, yeah, the Eren on the thing. I know people are gonna be like, yeah, you guys like AOE and shit. I am doing a whole lot of reviews on the Farsi channel first about the many plot holes it has, and the ending as it is, it creates a lot of plot holes and a lot of problems that let's say AOE does never happens. So enjoy your plot holes and your issues in the thing that is one of my favorite series, but it didn't deserve a 10. Even on the visual side, it did start to have some problems at the very end. It didn't deserve a 10, man. And again, a 5 paragraphs review, like IGN, what the fuck is this? 5 paragraphs for just delete this shit. I mean, come on. Just don't defend it. Just realize you did a bad. You will never do. You are media people, just entitled people. Thank you very much for watching. As we say in Farsi, شبتون بخیر، روزتون بخیر.